This is CBC Vancouver News.
New rules for masking in BC.
Most people are reasonable. They understand that when you go to a healthcare setting, that's where people are most at risk.
When it all starts and who is affected. Plus, a brewing debate over Vancouver's scenic views.
In a housing crisis, when we need to maximize every square inch of land that we have.
Why some say so-called view cones need to go. And a real-life superhero in BC's interior.
My pleasure, really. Oh, man, honestly.
And the massive donation he's made to a wildfire victim. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Dan is away tonight. New rules for masking in healthcare settings go into effect in BC starting on Tuesday next week. The changes come as the province is set to roll out its campaign for COVID-19 and flu vaccinations. But as Mira Baines reports, not everyone will have to mask up.
Masks are back, at least in some settings. As of October 3rd, you'll need to mask up in all healthcare settings, and that applies to both healthcare workers and visitors. Places like hospitals and long-term care facilities are on the list. But not all patients and residents are required to mask. That will be a personal choice.
I think most people are reasonable. They understand that when you go to a healthcare setting, that's where people are most at risk. Your loved one may be at risk in those settings, and healthcare workers know that as well.
The province released data showing a concerning trend as the province hits respiratory illness season. COVID hospitalizations are up from summer months. One of the reasons is more global travel, which means viruses are also spreading.
I also acknowledge that this is the first step, and it may come to fruition where we go back to masking in large settings.
There are no new rules for schools. The province will roll out vaccinations after Thanksgiving Day long weekend, with priority groups receiving invitations first. COVID-19 and flu vaccines will be widely available at pharmacies and public health clinics.
Primarily, vaccines will be available quite widely in communities through pharmacies, both the COVID vaccine and the flu vaccine, and we encourage people to get them at the same time, and you'll be able to book the appointments at the same time.
The province is hoping more masking and vaccinations will help reduce the pressure on the healthcare system. The BC Nurses Union says there are already major workload concerns.
We know we're going into RSV season, influenza, COVID. As it stands now, we don't have enough nurses in this province to take care of the demands now.
The province says masks will not be mandated for everyone in healthcare settings for a number of reasons, including the fact that residents of long-term care facilities call them home. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Major cities around the world are known for their skylines. Vancouver, of course, is among them. From the mountains to the ocean, its views are iconic. But as Belle Puri reports, a debate is brewing over whether those views are a luxury the city can no longer afford to keep.
Vancouver is a beautiful city. People love to be here, in part because of the scenery.
You have the ocean, the water, you have the ships, and facing the mountains as well.
But what doesn't get in the way of the view can get in the way of needs.
In a housing crisis, we need to maximize every square inch of land that we have, and we're cutting buildings in half because of view cones slicing through the sites.
View cones were designed to preserve ocean and mountain vistas from 26 locations in the city. Since 1989, they've limited the size and location of new construction. Over the years, some have become obsolete.
There's trees that have grown in front of them, there's sail masts from boats at the marina, or even 3 of them on the Granville Street Bridge that are only visible from moving vehicles.
Under a proposed review of the policy, protection of Vancouver's views could be partially scrapped in favor of housing. Earlier this week, the BC government ordered 10 municipalities to build more housing over the next 5 years. Vancouver's target is the highest at 28,900.
This means addressing local barriers in construction, including updating zoning bylaws and streamlining local development approval processes.
One real estate expert says views are among luxuries taken for granted that may no longer be affordable.
So you can probably rank the view cones. It's tough to say objectively what's more beautiful than what, but people could probably rank them somewhat, and maybe the bottom third, bottom half go out the window for additional housing.
The motion calling for a staff review of the cones goes to City Council on Wednesday.
If it's housing that it'd be accessible for the majority, then I'm down for covering mountains. If you're going to build like high rises for only the rich, then it's obviously less than ideal.
I hope the price of Vancouver housing will go down by building more houses. So it's good overall.
I come from a big city, Sao Paulo, and they don't have any protection. We have huge buildings all over the place, and that affects the whole logistics of the city. It's just really, it's not a good environment.
With all eyes now on tackling the housing crisis, some views may have to be out of sight. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
Last month, the Canadian Border Services Agency seized almost 200 kilograms of opium hidden in shipping containers. One shipment was concealed in the interior structure of a piece of machinery, and the other was found inside a piece of furniture. The total amount of seized drugs has been passed on to the RCMP for investigation. Hundreds of former Shaw technicians could be walking off the job after the company's takeover by Rogers. Around 300 BC workers have voted in favor of job action. United Steelworkers says its members will be prepared to make that happen in late October if the impasse is not resolved. At issue is job security after recent layoffs and voluntary departures. The union says the layoffs call into question Rogers' commitment to create 3,000 new jobs in Western Canada over 5 years, a condition that was federally mandated for the $26 billion takeover to happen. The two sides have been at the bargaining table since February. SFU teaching support staff walked off the job today at all campuses and were picketing outside its Surrey location. All work has been stopped indefinitely until a agreement is reached. The union has gone 19 months without a contract. Its demands include a cost of living adjustment, wage compensation, and an improved pension plan. In a statement, the university says the union has been offered the maximum wage increase under BC's shared recovery mandate. However, members disagree.
We provide a lot of labor to SFU. About half of the instruction that happens at SFU is given by TSSU members. So that means that we've basically cut down the capacity of this university by half, the capacity of instruction. And on top of that, a lot of faculty members are in solidarity with us.
Dubé says instructors have canceled classes as well at the Surrey campus because they won't cross the picket line. Picketing will happen at SFU's Vancouver campus on Friday and the Burnaby campus on Tuesday. A second BC Ferries vessel will be temporarily out of service to undergo repairs after the Thanksgiving long weekend, and that will result in 14 canceled sailings in October. Engineers discovered a crack in the ballast of the Spirit of Vancouver Island, which travels between Tsawwassen and Swartz Bay. The vessel will be under repair for 9 days starting October 10th. Meanwhile, the Coastal Renaissance remains out of service until at least early December. Protesters gathered in front of MLA offices across the province today, marking a day of action for old-growth forests.
We're here to try to protect these forests while we still can, and we're here after the worst wildfire season on record. And we know that these forests are essential to keeping our communities safe from climate change and from worsening floods and fires.
Rallies were held in 17 locations across BC, protesters demanding politicians uphold the recommendations made in the 2020 Old Growth Strategic Review Plan, including the immediate deferral of logging in biologically diverse areas. According to the demonstrators, the province has not implemented any of the recommendations in the plan, despite its 2023 deadline. A proposed three-berth marine container terminal in Delta has been issued an environmental assessment certificate by the province, meaning if completed, the project would not have negative effects on the environment. The proposed Roberts Bank Terminal 2 would expand the existing container terminal and, according to the province, open up what is called Canada's throttled marine supply chain. The port says it will create more than 17,000 well-paying jobs and generate hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue. There is no date yet for construction to begin. Well, it was sticker shock at the pumps after vehicle owners woke up to an unpleasant surprise this morning, with gas prices across Metro Vancouver shooting up 10 cents a litre. Here's what some drivers had to say.
Gas prices should be going up there, right? Because we're running out. So realistically, we should be trying to incentivize people to drive electric.
When we're not driving, not so much, but at home it's a massive cost that we need to account for.
Yeah, so
we're looking at buying electric bikes.
I guess it do, right? Because I drive almost every day to work back in Sweden, and the Swedish gas prices are very high. I think in Europe in general is very high, so yeah.
I drive an electric car, so the gas prices, I don't even think twice about them. So.
Not yet. I filled up a few days ago at 201. I thought I was lucky at that. But driving is much more of a luxury now than it was a year or two ago, even though prices have kind of like so. But we'll survive because everything will be electric soon enough.
Some stations are charging $2.14 a litre, the highest gas prices the region has seen since October of 2022. With National Day for Truth and Reconciliation right around the corner, organizers are warning people to do their research before they buy their orange shirts. We'll tell you why after the break. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, if you've scrolled through TikTok or Instagram, you may have come across a trend where men are asked how often they think about the Roman Empire. The CBC's Amy Bell spoke to an assistant professor of Roman archaeology at UBC on why some men love the Roman Empire.
Hello, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I guess this begs the question, how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
I would say at least 8 hours a day, every day, but then I get paid to do it.
Now, this isn't the first time the Roman Empire has made it into popular media, though, is it?
No, and I think that that's why people keep thinking about and thinking with the Roman Empire is because we're inundated with a media landscape, everything from Gladiator to HBO's Rome to, every late night documentary that you can find flipping channels about the inventions and the greatness of the Romans. And those are the things that people talk about and think about when they think about Rome. But I was surprised when this came out, and all of a sudden my phone started blowing up with everyone I know saying, look, we think about the Roman Empire all the time. So maybe there's a little bit of, people ask the question and they're
and you realize,
yeah,
you're like, finally, it's your time to shine. What, regardless of if you think about it once a day or once a year, there are some things when we look around that we have inherited from the Roman Empire. So what are some of those things that people might not realize we do, adopt from them?
Well, I think you can think about this in two ways. In the physical world that we inhabit, and I'm an archaeologist, so of course I'm going to start there. There are so many things we encounter here in Vancouver that in some ways owe themselves to the Roman Empire. So for example, if you go downtown, walk in front of the Vancouver Art Gallery, the facade is designed in a classical way. The other thing we have to think about that we encounter every day is ideas of empire and colonialism.
Right.
Both of these are Latin words, right? Colonia, imperium. And when, as we get up to, Truth and Reconciliation Day, every British and French administrator who was involved in colonization and the creation and expansion of empire was reading Roman authors.
Definitely something to think about, and I guess we'll just wait and see what the next TikTok trend will bring us. Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, Matt McCarty is an assistant professor of Roman archaeology at UBC's Ancient Mediterranean and Near Eastern Study.
National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is this Saturday, prompting many Canadians to wear an orange shirt to honor residential school survivors. But organizers in Victoria are warning people to do their research before they buy their orange shirts. With the growing popularity comes people taking advantage for economic gain. Many artists have seen their artwork stolen or funds raised from the shirts that don't end up going to the cause.
There are many people out there that are profiting from that story of residential school, and they're not contributing any way in the healing that orange shirt they is trying to do.
There are several official and approved locations you can purchase an authentic orange shirt. In Victoria, you can go to victoriaorangeshirtday.com. One of the survivors being recognized on Saturday is Phyllis Webad, the creator of Orange Shirt Day 10 years ago. It's based on her experiences as a 6-year-old attending residential school in BC. Phyllis shared her personal story with CBC Kids News contributor Ainara Elaine. The conversation starting with a question from a 10-year-old girl from Toronto.
Victoria heard your story and she had a question about that moment that they took your shirt away. Here she is.
Hi, my name is Victoria and my question is, why did they take your orange shirt and how did you feel when they took it?
Okay. The mission is what we called it, St. Joseph Indian Residential School. It's about 20 minutes out of Williams Lake, and when we got there, everybody's clothing was taken away, not just my clothing. Then we were stripped and we had to take a shower. Then they cut our hair. At Granny's, my baths were by the stove. I had never seen water coming out of the walls before, and we were frightened, like 5- and 6-year-olds. And a lot of them were like that. We didn't have electricity or showers, and no matter what we did or tried to fight to get our clothing, we were 5- and 6-year-olds. They weren't going to listen to us. So no matter how much we cried or protested or tried to fight back, there was no use. And I'm often asked by children, how did it feel? And what I say is, you know, when you're at the mall or you're at the grocery store and you lose track of your parents and you're little and you're just suddenly frozen in fear. You're just so scared you could just pee your pants. It was just really scary for a new 6-year-old.
You know, when we see like Orange Shirt Day and, you know, residential schools, I feel like when we see it depicted, we see them a little bit older. Like, I would say like 10 maybe, which is still awful. But to think that you were like that small, like my brother just started grade 1. And he's still just learning so much, and he doesn't know that you don't really know fully what's going on.
And this is why this is so effective, is because it's a simple story that people can understand, students, children can understand, that everybody has families. Can imagine getting them stolen and taken and not being able to do a darn thing about it.
This coverage can be upsetting and invite painful memories or feelings. If you or someone you care about is looking for support, you can reach the National Residential School Crisis Line at 1-866-925-4419. It operates 24 hours a day and is available for survivors, intergenerational survivors, and their loved ones. And here we have a look at the last supermoon of the year. The full harvest moon will shine into the early morning hours, reaching peak illumination just before 3 a.m. tomorrow. Your full forecast is coming up next.
This is a city light pole, and it's being replaced because something is eating away at its base. And there's not a darn thing the city can do about it, even though they know exactly what's causing the corrosion. Dogs are the problem. Dogs and their
dog urine.
According to this city engineer, they just lift up those canine legs and wreak havoc on city streets.
Any acid will eat through the metal, and that's pretty much what's it seems to be happening here.
So far this year, 300 light poles have been earmarked for removal, mostly in areas around city parks.
Dog's got to go someplace, fire hydrant or a pole.
True, but this instinctive thing dogs seem to have about poles has cost Vancouver about $300,000 so far. But look a little more closely into this problem, and you realize some dogs are being maligned unfairly.
They cannot be accusing female dogs of rusting the bottoms of the light poles.
Darn right, this idea of using light poles as toilets is a male thing, a territory thing. Females do it differently.
Not a leg left here. A squatter.
Still, with half the dog population out there using the poles, damage continues to be done. The city's only defense, the new replacement poles have all been sprayed with a zinc coating. It'll help, but it's the kind of problem that's not going to dry up. Deborah Goebel, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC Vancouver is the exclusive media partner of the Jade Music Festival, October 18th to the 20th. The festival features a variety of events that showcase Chinese-Canadian music and entertainment. And on October 21st, support youth arts education with Gloria Makarenko at Splash, Arts Umbrella's 41st annual gala and art auction. Tickets at artsumbrella.com.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at our forecast. Now, Darius, I've really been enjoying the little bit of rain that we've had here on the coast. Is that rain going to be sticking around any longer?
Afraid not. I think we've seen the last of it, at least through this weekend. Potentially next week, beginning next week, we start to see a little bit more, and we could use it because we're still in not a great drought situation. The update came today. We did improve here on the coast a little bit. You can see on the south coast, we have moved from drought level 5 back down to drought level 4. So still the second worst. So not that much improvement, but it's something. It shows that the rain, if we keep getting it, will continue to lower our drought situation. We have gotten a bit worse in parts of the north. We've gone back from drought level 4 up to drought level 5. So across the province, sort of a net no change, but just where we're seeing these really drastic drought conditions has changed a little bit. And like before, I want to compare this a little bit, just really briefly, to where we were at last year during our historic drought in 2022, in a much better spot this time last year. Even at the peak of last year's fall drought, we were doing better than we are right now. So not a great situation to be in still. Hopefully we continue to see some rainfall, but you know, if 250 millimeters on parts of the island didn't make much difference, it'll be a while before we see some significant change. Over the next 48 hours, nothing more for the coast really, but in the interior we see a few showers popping up. For the most part, though, we have a ridge of high pressure coming in. We're going to be seeing pretty dry conditions over the next, through the weekend, at least until the beginning of next week. In terms of temperatures, that also means they start to come up a little bit over the next few days. Still a little bit below seasonal right now. By the end of this weekend, we should be back around seasonal. It's not much of a change. You can see the color across here stays mostly the same, but in the south, we do see temperatures come up at least a couple degrees. So that should be a nice change for people getting outside this weekend. No sweater necessary, probably. Here we see a little bit of rain happening tomorrow. This is where we saw those little bits of green pop up on that precipitation map, but these are just chances of showers, no guarantee in any of these places, so don't expect too much. For the most part, we're looking at a little bit of cloud and quite a bit of sun for most places in the province, and you can see that here in Vancouver. We got a little bit of cloud tomorrow, clearing out by the mid-afternoon, and then we got sunny weekend, and then the rain returns for the beginning of next week.
Thank you so much, Darius.
Thanks, Janelle.
It was a collection that took decades to build. Now, a man who lost his 34,000 comics to a wildfire in the Shuswap region is getting a big donation. It wasn't just a beloved collection, it was also his retirement plan. But now a real-life superhero has stepped up to help, and we were there to see it all unfold.
Totally awesome. I was watching Situation on Fires on CBC News, and I saw Barney interviewed, and he was just describing how he'd lost his whole house, and then he said he'd lost 34,000 comics, and that had been his retirement plan. And I just thought, well, I've got a collection, a few boxes, and haven't really looked at them in at least 10 years, and they're not part of my retirement plan. So I thought I could easily part with them for a good cause like this.
We got some in here that I've collected.
Really? Oh, that's great. That's great.
So, I had all of this, the Alien Agenda.
Yeah.
I had all of it.
Okay.
So now this is the beginning of it again. So that's awesome.
That's great. That's fantastic. I'm so happy.
Oh yeah, just because even that one, I think I lost that in the fire. And you get them back. Totally.
Hey man, my pleasure, really. Oh man, honestly.
It's totally awesome.
Well,
to get some back. It's beyond what I thought. This is look at this, Cosmic Odyssey. You don't know how much I've been trying to get these again since I lost them. I don't like having any missing issues out of a collection.
Yeah.
I gotta fill it. So now I got a lot more researching to do. I don't know if it's a blessing from you or another curse. Yeah. But it's just totally awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Now I got a jumping off point. Start again.
Well, good. I'm glad.
That is your late news for this Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. For news anytime, visit our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a great night.